clock strikes 12, we're ready to dive down the street where the neon hums. Our little escape, the workday succumbs. Tables wait, the bar's got that swing. Glasses clink, hear the ice cubes sing. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worry slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. There's Troy laughing with his gin and a grin, telling stories about where he's been. Boomer's got whiskey, he's loosening his tie, chasing dreams under a midday sky. The bartender knows us, he's mixing with flair. Every sip's a moment we're happy to share. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worry slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. Sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worry slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
Hava salut and welcome. And can I get a sound check? Let me know if I sound 5x5, because yesterday while I was setting the stream up, I was getting error messages about my microphone. So please help me out as you always do here in the chat. I'm going to start by saying hi to, because Big Al let me know that there was a comment from Lynn Green, I'm going to say hi to her first, but unfortunately I cannot see her comment. But Big Al says, you go Lynn Green, preach. I would love to know what she was preaching about. Hoping everyone is having a nice day. Have a great show, Troy. Thank you so very, very much. And F you, YouTube, just saying. A lot of problems with this platform right now. Eating members, eating comments, yeeting channels. Very, very no bueno. Mark Melnikov says, Mech poh! It is lunchtime. Be thoughtful. Yes, I like that. It's Thoughtful Tuesday. Be thoughtful. Like, share, subscribe, and become a member. Do these clicky things now. That's right. Klingons say pain let you know you are alive. I certainly am. I have an ingrown toenail. Seeing a doctor shortly. Well, I don't know if you most people realize this, but when a Klingon has an ingrown toenail, which is common enough that they build it into the armor of their boots, they have a big claw that comes out of the boot specifically because that's where an ingrown toenail comes out of. Very, very painful. Netter says to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, become a member, and gift a membership. Yes, please do all those things, especially right now. February is the dead time for channels. The suppression is the worst in February. The loss of engagement and membership in February for whatever reason. This is just something I've been told by more experienced YouTubers that is the case, and so I would really appreciate your help getting back to 100 members. We have slipped a long way from the gusto of year end. And make sure that you guys are all showing Netter the love. She is not feeling well today, so please send her your best. Jonathan Conroy says, hail all, smash the like button, and enjoy the show. Yes, please do all of those things. Otherwise, if you don't enjoy the show, you're not going to be coming back. And he lets me know that I'm coming through 5x5. I see the little blinky that says that I'm talking, but I'm never sure that that's actually getting out there. So thank you very much. Geek Flag with Nate No says, like, share, subscribe, comment, become a member. And if you were going to give a super chat of $5 or more, why not gift a membership instead to help make our family grow? Yes. Or pull back as much of our membership as we can. That would be wonderful. Connie Cleary, the bird woman of YouTube and Fluff Chick Productions. Hail to you, Connie. Good to see you. And the Vagrancy Horror comes in to say, hello, all. Hello. Hello, Christoph. Good to see you. Always, always good to see you. Winter in general is just a horrible time of year. I know. And he says, get well soon, Netter. Let's see. Connie says, hope Netter feels better soon. Big Al presents Feel Better Netter. Behaving badly is still behaving. And that's always my answer when told I'm bad. I understand. Geek Flag with Nate knows. Feel Better Netter. Well, today is Tuesday. Thoughtful Tuesday. So I usually give my thoughts and what's on my mind throughout the week, really, just every show. I mean, it's my show. That's kind of the whole point of the show. But on Tuesdays, I specifically and really, I want you always to feel like you can engage, shout out in the chat what's on your mind, but especially today, I want to focus on your thoughts about things going on. What would you like to talk about? What would you like to hear me talk about? Would you like to hear my thoughts about anything in particular? Do you have some thoughts you'd like to share with me? Please let me know in the chat. But to kick us off, I want to bring up something that Culture Casino was talking about it this morning, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday. We touched on it mostly on Geeky Geezers, and things are unfolding that really are very surprising. I want to say hi before I move on to Booger. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. So let's take a look at this real quick. Let me bring this up. Yep. Yesterday's membership stream, we watched the original Tron from 1982. Let's see. Share screen. And share. There we go. Netflix Warner Brothers deal faces political headwinds as conservative groups warn of unprecedented ideological power. Now, most of the mainline outlets are very much spinning this as some sort of, current administration oppression of the media and getting involved where they should. And I love how leftists want complete control over everything, but then they rail against government control when it's not their government control. And yet, this is exactly what I predicted was going to happen with this Netflix deal. That the government was not going to let it happen just out of hand. Nate said, I tried watching Tron Ares. I haven't finished yet, but just having no conception to the other two movies. It's just a badly made movie. It looks good, but it just makes no effing sense. Yeah, I can help you make sense of it. It's written by people that don't understand storytelling. I came to that realization. They can you imagine trying to follow a recipe if you are an AI that has never eaten food, tasted food, or even understands the purpose of food, right? And your first recipe could be perfect because you exactly recreate it. But that's not being a cook. That's not coming up with something original. So now you start swapping out the spices and you start swapping out things that you think might work. So you swap out the sugar for salt, and you swap out the cinnamon for pepper, and you swap out the flour for baking soda, right? You see where this is going? This is kind of the way that a lot of these follow the formula type movies go. Get all the elements from the previous movies in, all the things we think are important, and it'll all be good. Just rehash, regurgitate. And unfortunately, they don't understand. Actually, I went into all that analogy. There was a better one. In Star Trek 4, they realize that the probe that's going to destroy the Earth is going to destroy the Earth not because it's hostile, but because it's trying to get a message across that is dangerous to humans. And they figure out that the message is actually being sent to humpback whales. It is whale song. And someone says, well, can't we just, respond with whale song? If we did that without understanding the language, it would be gibberish. And that is what's happening. These writers, and it's not just Tron Ares, it's all of these writers these days, don't understand storytelling. They don't even understand human communication, human interaction, what makes us social creatures. This age of this post-COVID, very much social media driven phenomenon has destroyed most of this generation's ability to interact with humans on a one-to-one personal basis. There's no listening. There's no thinking involved. It's just follow formula, make thing, and it may as well be AI generating these stories. It really, really may as well be. I have mixed feelings about antitrust laws in general. We all recognize that companies can get too big and often squash corporations, but the free market should be allowed to flourish. Yes. Let me help you out with this, Booger. Let me explain it to you a different way by way of analogy. We should all just be able to get along, right? And we don't need a government involved in anything. We should be able to solve our own disputes. We should be able to be kind and courteous and share everything we have. In fact, no one should own anything. We should just be able to share freely, like a family, like a big family. And it works for families, so shouldn't it work for the whole world? That's the communist utopia. And we all know it does not work because you're operating under misunderstandings of the way things, you know the way things should work, But reality doesn't work that way. And yes, in a perfect world, we could trust governments to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate until only one person owned it. But remember, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when a robber baron owns everything, when they own the entire market, when they own the entertainment industry, the industries that support the entertainment industry, the railroads that supply stuff to the entertainment industry, the manufacturing companies that supply stuff for the entertainment industry, and they can set the prices without regulation, you get a dystopia. Too much of a good thing. That's why we have antitrust. There has to be limits because unfortunately you cannot trust anyone with too much power. That's why the government is supposed to work the way it's supposed to, right? We're supposed to have checks and balances so that no one person or one portion of the government has too much power. Now, unfortunately, humans being humans, they find ways around the rules and they go, we're going to ignore what you're doing as long as you ignore what we're doing. You can get away with going to that island and doing bad things, and we won't say anything about it because there's things that we're doing that we don't want you to talk about. That's why antitrust laws are so crucial. Absolutely. AI told me I hadn't tasted food in a week. I told it, don't worry, it still tastes the same. Eric Idle wrote a song about this kind of formula in Spamalot. Yeah. Speaking of AI, you heard about Grok getting into trouble for their weak safety guidelines, funny video and image generation. So Google has responded to that, tighten their already very strict safety. Yeah, there's the other thing. There's antitrust, at work right there, right? There's a monopoly right there. When your government and your laws and your freedoms mean nothing because the government owns you have a First Amendment right to speech. What happens when a company owns all of the methods by which you could speak? They own your phone line. They own your computer lines. They control all the platforms that you use. Don't you want the government to come in and say, nope, you're restricting people's freedoms. You got to back off of that. That's the problem. Yes, that's exactly right. And that's a reality you have to deal with, Booger. That's why. That's what society is. That's why laws exist. Laws would not have to exist at all if men were perfect and things worked the way they should. Laws exist because, yes, we should be able to leave our doors unlocked and walk around without keys, get into our car and drive and know that our car will still be there when we get back, even if we've left, $100 bill sitting on the dashboard. But nobody thinks that's really going to happen because we know there are people out there that look at the laws and think, yeah, that's a funny little suggestion. That's why laws need to be enforced with consequences. You broke the law, so you're going to jail. See how you like that. Maybe that will be a deterrent from you breaking that law in the future. And companies need to be the same way. You have enough of a market share. You are not allowed to have any more market share. Other people need to be in competition with you. You're the board that's like I should be able to just annex my neighbor's yard if I want to, and buy his yard and buy the yard next year. You know what? I should be able to buy all the property in this town. And then after I bought all the property in this town, all the property in the next town and the next town. And then people are starting to go, why is the price of housing going so high? I can't afford to buy another house. Well, it's because Troy owns them all and he set the price. That's what happens when you don't have checks and balances on what people can and can't do. There's got to be an upper limit. That was already very strict. That reaction is like me finding out my local politician cheated on her husband, and I came home to tell my wife I want a divorce. Yeah. Well, there you go. But no, actually what it is you find out that your local politician cheated on her spouse. So you come home and you tell your wife, I am glad that we have the institution of marriage, and I can expect that you will be faithful to me, and you can expect that I'll be faithful to you. Otherwise, we'll end up like those bastards, you know? That's why I'm glad those rules exist. I used to work in an industry that was mostly small companies. A few big companies buy up all the small ones. Then folks leave and start their own smaller companies, and the cycle starts all over. Does it really, though? It gets harder and harder to start a new small company, because not only do these big companies buy up the smaller companies, but eventually they get so big they don't need to buy the small companies. They eventually start crushing the small companies, and they drive up prices on materials so that they can afford it, but the small companies can't, and they go out of business. And then they work with politicians and say, we need regulation to protect the industry. And it sounds like you're protecting the small companies, but it's not. It's driving the small companies out of business. Look at the big agriculture. All of the agricultural laws are literally to drive small independent companies and farms out of business, so that Monsanto and the big companies can buy up all the farmland and run them themselves, and then charge you the prices that they decide. You're putting big companies in charge of what you need to survive: food. Think about it. It happens all the time. It doesn't continue. That cycle is going downhill, and eventually you won't be able to start a new business because you won't be able to afford it, because all the rich, and you won't even be able to find a place to start, because you're going to be right next to a Walmart, and nobody's going to come to your business because you're charging higher prices than they are, because they have everything super cheap. They're able to import from overseas. You have to make this stuff yourself locally, and that costs more. Company stores worked for mining companies in the 1800s. Yep. And you had no choice but to buy from them. You were literally a slave. That's what happens if you don't have antitrust laws and you don't have labor laws, right? Right? If the world worked the way it should, you wouldn't need labor laws. You wouldn't need to tell people that everyone should be paid at least a decent minimum wage, that you have to give them time off. You got to give them an opportunity to have lunch in the middle of the day, take some time off when they have a baby. You wouldn't have to tell them that, right? But unfortunately you do. And you wouldn't have to tell them you can't enslave them and force them to buy your products. But that's what happens when you have a monopoly. Charlotte Nightstar. We will talk more about this, I'm sure, on Thursday over on Netter's Network. YouTube took away her monetization. And see, I don't know if people realize this, but we talk about it from the point of view of our own channels. I lost my monetization. I lost so many subscribers. I lost this, I lost that. But you forget that it affects all the people in this community around you. Charlotte Nightstar loses her monetization, which means I lose her as a member, which means, oh, and it's not just that. It's not just the ones you know about. I lost 4 members in the span of 2 months because their channels were just taken away. They lost their channels entirely. Not that they lost their monetization. They lost their channels. They were just yeeted by YouTube. and they just went blank on my membership. Their membership line still exists for the rest of the month, but there's no way for them to renew because they no longer have a channel. And I can't even see what their name was. All I can see is blank line at blank line, how long they had been a member, and that's it. They can't come back. And this is another place where we lose memberships, and it's tough. It is really, really tough. This is why you will always hear me saying, I really, really need your support in any way that you can support, because we're literally fighting this monopoly, right? And then we got people that don't want any regulation, that want to let YouTube do whatever they want to do. When you own the market, you get to set the rules. And if someone comes in and says that's not fair, you have to have an agreement that works for. No, we don't. It's our platform, we can do whatever we want. Go pound sand. Well, there's nowhere else for me to go. I'm sorry, you don't get the product. And when that product is the public, the public arena where I could speak, when it's the food that I eat, the water I drink, there is nowhere else to go, I become a slave. In that industry, the big companies inevitably offer lesser services, and the clients like the smaller companies. That's very idealistic of you, Booger. That's the way you keep talking about, the way it should work. Unfortunately, that's not the way it actually works. Because you think that's what people do, but they don't. They go cheaper thing, cheaper thing, cheaper thing. Let me get my Temu and my Wish.com and my, all the tchotchkes that come from overseas, cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. I don't care that it's made using slave labor. I get my cheaper thing. Well, but it's made better here in the United States. Don't care, cheaper. People can't work because I don't care. I get my stuff cheaper. Hey, last call, Troy Patelli. Are you doing all right? Relatively speaking, it is a struggle. It is an absolute struggle. And we talk about it here all the time. Why don't you just make the law that if you own a company that has, let's say, 1,000 employees or more, you cannot own another company? That's impossible. That really is impossible, because unfortunately, a law that would apply to a human being, you can only own this much or only that much, doesn't apply when we treat corporate entities as if they were people. So all you do is you go and you create a new corporate entity, you call it something else, you incorporate under a different name, and boom, you own two companies. They're owned by you, right? That's just how it works. And we've also decided that companies exist as an entity for the purpose of campaign finance. So now these companies that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger can now influence the government.
My company is a good example of that. My main company, let's just call it What's It,
Yep.
has now subsidiaries that used to be under just kind of a part of them. Now they made them subsidiaries. So now this is two new companies under there that is still, they're under their name because they're the parent. What's It is the parent company. But now Who's It and That's It are subsidiaries that now have more employees and now are a totally, not totally different business, but
and why did they do that? Do you know?
I really don't.
See, here's the thing. Whenever you hear something like that, a company's being bought, a company's being sold, a company's being split, you always have to ask the basic question. This is the basic question you should always be asking about everything. Cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits by splitting your company? Obviously, the company benefits, But why are they doing it? There is a financial reason. Cui bono goes hand in hand with follow the money. See? What was it that George Carlin once said? He said that all the elites belong to a special club that you'll never be a part of. That's the problem. Penny. Good to see you. She says, Troy, out and about, supposed to get more snow tomorrow. Well, good. Get out and about today. Get home safely. Stay warm, and ride out the snow. I totally understand. We are. What is our? Oh, that's NASDAQ. I don't give a crap about the NASDAQ. Where is my weather? We're at 29. Man, we are really close to that 32 mark. It's probably at a point where it's warm enough in the sun to melt the snow on the sidewalk. Possibly. But there we go. Companies do that to cut down on their taxes. See? So this is the other thing. The bigger the company, the less they have to pay in taxes because there's more that they can do to avoid those taxes.
Or they have a thing like I said, who's it and that's it, or whatever I call them. They are a name of themselves, so people are familiar with their names. And it's like, oh, I'm going to buy from who's in and what's it, not from parent company, because I'm familiar with that name.
The other thing that they do this for, and again, I don't know the specifics about Netter's company. I really don't. So I'm not saying anything specifically about her company. I'm just speaking in generalities. A lot of times they'll split companies up because they want to get around regulations. Let's say you want to avoid paying the minimum wage in the United States and you want to hire people overseas, but this company is under certain regulations. So, you know what? I'm going to split off and it's going to become blah, 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 US and blah, 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 India. And we're going to open a subsidiary or a separate company, incorporate completely separately over in India, and they're going to do all the whatever jobs for us. And now we don't have to pay a minimum wage to them, and we don't have to give them time off, and we don't have to do all this stuff. Basically, it's slave labor.
Oh, I worked for Gallagher Bassett. They did that.
Yep.
I worked for a company that did workers' compensation self-insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to have people in India do our jobs. So paying them pretty much nothing to try and do our jobs. And for what I understand, because there's like one person that still works there doing this stuff, and she basically oversees making sure they got the reports right. They are screwing up these reports left and right because they just don't get it. And they're not difficult reports.
Yeah. Jonathan Conroy says also to get rid of debts. Yeah, so we're going to pay less in taxes. We're going to skip out on what we owe, right? This country was founded on a concept of no taxation without representation. How about no representation without taxation? If you're not paying your fair share, you don't get a say in government. A lot of people want to see businesses taken out of government. And every time you get, a ruling, right, we're gonna constrain businesses and prevent them from contributing to campaign finance. Pay very close attention. When they say what a law is for, read the law to see if it actually means that, right? Let me give you a little hint. What's it called? The Patriot Act. The Patriot Act sounds like, very American, pro-America, pro-freedom, right? Read that Patriot Act. It was the biggest power grab the government ever instituted on you. And we all said, yay! How does freedom die? With thunderous applause, right? Everyone's jumping down Massey's throat, saying he's an obstructionist. He doesn't want to pay for veteran benefits. Did you read the bill? Because there's a lot of stuff in there that he's not against taking care of veterans. He's against sending billions of dollars to the Somali terrorists. Pay attention, people. Don't just read the headline and assume you know what's going on. And if you want to know what's going on, let's take 3 minutes and see what's coming up on this channel over this next week. And then we'll come back to this on the other side. Be right back in just under 3 minutes.
You are watching Liquid Lunch, streaming every weekday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let's sip together. This week on Live from Sparkwood and 21, the Superfans are presenting the final part of Twin Peaks, Firewalk with Me, Teresa Banks, and The Last Days of Laura Palmer, the fan edit of Firewalk with Me and the Missing Pieces. Join us to watch live off-platform and hear the commentary on deleted scenes and affiliates, Tuesday at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern.
After a 4-month absence, Sherlock Holmes returns to Baker Street following an important assignment for the French government, recovering the Mona Lisa stolen from the Louvre, and several attempts on his life by the crime's perpetrator, Professor Moriarty. Ultimately, will Holmes survive? The final problem? Find out on Last Call Presents The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, this Tuesday at 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
This week on Netter's Network, Netter catches up with Charlotte Nightstar, a fresh and upcoming songwriter, short story writer, novelist, poet, and podcaster based in the Pacific Northwest of the U.S. She's already coming out strong as a literary artist, and she still has a ways to go to further shine her personality and talent to the world, which she'll do on Netter's Network this Thursday at 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
This week on Saturday Night at the Movies, a narcissistic, self-centered weatherman finds himself in a time loop on Groundhog Day. Bill Murray and Andy McDowell star in the 1993 romantic comedy classic Groundhog Day. This Saturday at 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Netter's Network Retro Cinema.
This week on Last Call Presents Doctor Who, the crew of the TARDIS find themselves and their ship acting very strangely indeed. Blame runs high for the ship's unusual behaviour, until the Doctor realises the TARDIS itself may be trying to warn them that they might be on the edge of destruction. This Tuesday at 11:30 p.m. Central, 12:30 Eastern.
We now return to our Liquid Lunch.
I want to thank Geek Flag with Nate Knows for the $2 Farty Fox. I super appreciate that, my friend. You are absolutely wonderful. And I'm wondering if Connie Cleary was singing along with the Doctor Who ad. Woo, woo, woo. Mark Melnikoff says, and I think I'm reading this right, a certain dilithium mine chain outsourced things overseas. Well, it didn't work out, and now all those functions are back in the United States. Yeah. That's the problem. You outsource, but then you completely lose control and quality. And talk about cycles, right? These cycles go over and over again. Can't afford all the employees we have. Can't afford the products we're making, the material costs, all of this because of all the regulation. So let's avoid the regulation by going overseas. Okay, now the production quality is lacking. There's no customer service. Customers get mad and start to leave. Okay, I guess we got to bring it all back again. And then you go for a little while, and then someone else is in charge, and they go, hey, you know what? We could save a lot of money by going overseas. Because companies don't learn. People don't learn. That's part of the problem. FKHC 2005, also known as Tim, says, hail, off work today. Well, wonderful. Hope you enjoy your time off. At least I hope you're off work today for a good reason and not like Netter and not feeling well and that's why you are off work. Either way, I am glad to have you here with us. So yeah, let's real quick get back to this, because I kind of we got off on the topic, but we never actually got to the article itself. So let's take a look at that again. So Netflix Warner Brothers deal faces political headwinds, and I had said this was coming, right? And we could do all of our philosophizing about whether we agree or disagree with antitrust laws. The fact is, they exist. Okay, just like all the people that don't think we should be deporting, people that are here illegally. Nobody is illegal. We shouldn't have borders. Kumbaya, right? Sorry, those laws exist. If that's how you feel about it, you don't not enforce the law. You change the law or remove the law from the books, right? That's the way it should go. Scheduled work out that worked out that way. Back to work Saturday. Just the way it worked out. Wow, that's crazy. So that means that you are you're off for the rest of the week. Well, that sounds like a good thing. Enjoy your time off by all means. So kumbaya my ass. Exactly right. So let's get into this. The proposed Netflix Warner Brothers deal is no longer being viewed solely as a high dollar Hollywood consolidation. What began as a business transaction involving two major entertainment players has now evolved into a broader debate about cultural power, ideological influence, and whether any single media company should be allowed to wield that level of reach over America storytelling. See, that is the key. This isn't just about dollars and cents. This is about the hearts and minds of this country. You want to put all of the ability to create movies and entertainment and TV shows and music and everything in the hands of one company, so that they can directly influence through propaganda what you think, how you think, what your values are, and therefore how you vote, what laws you support, where you put your money. You're literally trying to put a company in charge of your lives and your children's lives and our country, if you give them enough power. That's what this comes down to. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I would argue that after a certain point, there is no further corruption that can happen. You now have enough corruption that you accumulate power just because you're evil and you want to control more. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. At the center of the controversy is Netflix's effort to acquire major assets from Warner Brothers Discovery. And keep in mind too, look, feel free to pull back from the high level and look at it just from your own personal point of view. Do you want Netflix in charge of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the DC catalog, and not to mention all the rest of Warner Brothers, IPs? Now, I don't know what's all's involved in this, because last I heard, Netflix wasn't going after everything Warner Brothers had, but Warner Brothers owns most of the commercial music that you love. Every song you hear on the radio, almost about a third of it belongs to Warner Brothers. Just saying. Most of the artists that you like so much aren't seeing hardly any money out of it. It all goes to Warner Brothers and whoever the company is that owns that music. People forget that your favorite artist, I don't care who it is. We were talking about people like Belinda Carlisle and Debbie Gibson and Tiffany and Justin Bieber and all of them. They're hired hands. They go out and perform like trained monkeys, and they make whatever they make for their concerts and their public appearances, and they make pennies on the dollar for their songs. The lion's share of that goes to Warner Brothers or BMG or whoever the the company is that owns their music. Oh, no, wait a minute. They wrote it themselves. So it's their song. Okay, yeah, they make a few more sense because they wrote it as well as performed it. Still goes to the movie company. They're basically indentured servants. Anyway, let's get back to this. At the center of the controversy is Netflix's efforts to acquire major assets from Warner Brothers Discovery, a move that would combine the world's largest streaming platform with one of the most historic studios in film and television. Again, that's like the difference between owning the steel company and the railroad, right? And the construction company that's using both. That's what this kind of thing is. While antitrust concerns are expected with any deal of this size, conservative policy groups are framing this merger as something far more consequential than a typical market share dispute. Right, the ideological aspect that I was talking about. You can expect Clark Kent's son to have a big coming out party and a big struggle session with his family over the fact that he's gay. I can guarantee it under Netflix. I mean, Warner Brothers isn't doing a great job with that anyway. But I'm sorry, I'm losing the comments here. The only issue for the illegal people trying to word it for YouTube, sadly, is the little kids part. That part is a big issue. Again, it's about power, and the people that ignore that are complicit. You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. There are other options. You start out not giving enough, and you end up becoming a villain because it's easier. That's what happens with a lot of people. I think if Netflix buys Warner Brothers, they need to sell a boatload of stuff first before they are able to buy it. There is a money flow problem. That absolutely is true. That's a whole other challenge we're not even getting at with this article. Tim says, "Get well soon, Netter."
Thank you.
Netflix is hoping for Hail Mary pass. They're hoping to be able to twist the right arms. It's like owning the farm and the restaurant and charging your customers a surcharge because you have to buy ingredients from yourself. Exactly. And again, we realized this back in the days of Carnegie, right? You own the shipping companies, you own the material companies. So you basically get this stuff it's free to you. It's just your product. But then you charge ridiculous prices to everybody else. And there's nowhere else they can go. There isn't an option. You can't find another railroad line because you own all the railroad lines. You can't buy from another steel company because you own all the steel, right? So you have to pay their prices. Clark Kent's son came out as transsexual black woman. Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And what's interesting about fiction like that is you could actually do a story like that and do it. I mean, you'd want to think through a logical reason for it. But back at during the 60s, there was a story in the Silver Age Superman where Lois Lane became a black woman. Literally, just through sci-fi means, became a black woman. And it was a bit of a social commentary thing. Very cringy from our perspective, but very thought-provoking in its day. I would not be surprised if, there was some sci-fi method by which Jonathan could, go into some, crystal chamber in the Fortress of Solitude and rearrange himself to become... Because, they did have black Kryptonians. They had a country all of their own and so forth. And, he could, reach into the Kryptonian matrix and have his DNA rewritten so that he comes out a black woman. You know, it could be done, but you need to have a story that would make that sensible, right? Logical. There is a lady named Martina Big who got her skin recolored black. Yeah. That's it's transracial. And I love the fact that people do stupid stuff like that, because it raises it's no longer a hypothetical, right? You say trans rights, trans men are men, or trans women, I whatever, right? And you're like, no, they're not. It's just a boy that cut his dick off, and you're making this argument saying that by changing your outward appearance, it changes who you are. So does that mean if I change my skin color, I'm suddenly a black man? And then I could have the intersectional points of being oppressed by the white man? That's ridiculous. But see, logic escapes these people. That's part of the problem. I remember when they announced Superman's son being gay, the big joke at the time was, well, there goes the Kryptonian line. Yeah, right. And here is the lack of awareness of these writers. They throw in representation just for representation's sake without thinking through the logical ramifications of it. Because if you also look further into Jonathan Kent's story, he was abducted from his parents by Jor-El, who survived somehow, taken away from Earth as a child, mind you, and then brought back as a young adult. And now he's gay, and now he's got daddy issues and all this kind of stuff. Anybody who thinks that through goes, there was some sort of abuse that happened there to a child by his grandfather. His mind is warped. Oh, and he's gay. Are the two connected? I don't know. Is that what they're saying? I don't know. But it is what they are saying inadvertently, because they don't think through what their messaging is. That's why I said, if you're going to do it, you better have a reason. You better think it through. Not only do I remember the movie Soul Man, I have it on my shelf, and we did a watch party of it, a year or two ago. Yeah. What was the name of that kid? He was one of those actors who has like three first names as his name. Not Anthony Michael Hall, but somebody else like that. I'm forgetting his name. He was real big in the 80s. Lewis was exposed to pink kryptonite. Oh, Lois was exposed to pink kryptonite when she was pregnant. Yeah, that's what it was. Yes, because pink kryptonite was a thing that made. They're making pink kryptonite to make the Kryptonians gay. I sent you the story. It's weird. Yeah, someone should introduce Troy to Boondocks and Uncle Ruckus. I've heard about him. I don't know too much.
Thomas Howell.
C. Thomas Howell. That's who it was. That's right. And as I recall, the lead actress in that was a famous actor's or singer's daughter. I can't remember. Real pretty black girl, and I can't remember her name.
Chung.
Oh, right. She was Tommy Chong's daughter. That's right. So somehow Palpatine returned. Right. We're just pulling stuff out of the air, and we'll leave it to somebody else to figure out how it could work. Backfill the storyline. Troy, white, Italian, or black? You're still my brother. Good question. Well, I mean, you're not asking a question, but you essentially raise a question, Nate. Am I white or am I black as an Italian American? Because there was a time when people that cared about black-white lines considered Italians to be black. I kid you not. That is part of our history. It's a part of history that is mostly forgotten because most Italians don't care. We're Italian. I don't care if you think I'm black or white because
Wasn't it something to do with the Moors?
well, there is that element of it, but it had less to do with that and more that they were immigrants that, you know, there's the Northern Europeans and then there's the Mediterranean, Southern Europeans, and that's close enough to Africa that we consider you to be black. Yes, and everyone's starting to say, "C. Thomas Howell, thank you very much." Kryptonian frogs. That's right. And what's funny about that is everybody makes jokes about Alex Jones without actually listening to what he actually said, and he takes something that's absolutely true, and then he raises it to the absurd, bombastic, sound clip. But what he was talking about is plastics that, everyone talks about microplastics, all the environmentalists, how terrible microplastics are because it gets into the water and, the fish eat it and it pollutes the water. Right. And you're like, who cares about plastics? They're pretty much inert, and it passes right through your system. Who cares? Well, what happens is those plastics break down in the water, and the chemicals that are going into the water are very similar to estrogen. They are like an artificial estrogen, and that seems to affect humans. It's part of what's affecting our birth rates, and inability to conceive. But it seems to be because, and we know that frogs are very, very different on their dimorphic scale. Anyone who's saw Jurassic Park, or especially if you read the book, understand that. It throws off whatever's in frogs that tell them the correct way to mate, to pass on their genes, and it effectively does make the frogs gay. It's not gay as we understand it, like oh hey, I want some of that. It's just it breaks the instinct that is supposed to perpetuate the species. But anyway, C. Thomas Howell was in Gettysburg too. That's right, he was. Yeah, he was real big, and then I don't know. Did he leave Hollywood? Let's see. Franco Harris was half black, his father, half Italian, his mom. There you go. Actually, I know about that. My father tells a story when him and his an Italian guy in South Carolina had to fight off a bunch of bigots together. I'm not surprised. Yeah. And this is why history is so important. What?
He's been pursuing music professionally since at least the 2020s.
Oh, okay. So getting out of acting, moving into music, and I'm not keeping up on modern pop music, so I don't really know what's going on in that regard. So anyway, I just realized you guys got me talking so much that I am now running over, and I need to let you guys, well, those of you that do have to get back to work. I do have a lot coming up because I have to get both streams set up for tonight. You guys may not realize this, but when I'm sharing, a video that involves some editing that I have to do, and then transferring it over to the other computer, and setting up the Cosme and all that kind of stuff. So I got to get on that. I got a couple videos that I want to get filmed too. Penny says 27 years ago, a repairman at my sister's house wanted to know whose WAP that was, referring to my daughter. Wow. That's, wow. See, it's still prevalent. I am pretty much insulated from that, mostly because of apathy. Honestly, I don't care. I don't care what people say about me, what epithets they want to use. I am more used to being lambasted for political opinions and ideologies than I am, anything ethnic, but whatever. Anyway, my friends, I want to thank you all so much for hanging out with me and making this a much more pleasant liquid lunch than it would have been otherwise. You guys take care of yourselves. Really, really feel better if you don't feel well now. If you are feeling okay, keep it that way. Stay hydrated, drink responsibly. And I'll see you on the next one, which I hope is tonight. Take care, everybody. Except I didn't load the closing credits. So I'm just going to end the stream now. You guys take care, and I'll see you on the next one.